Good evening, everybody. It's time for one last look at free agent wide receivers, and we are now setting our sights really low with these guys. Basically, we're trying to really fill out the back end of the bench with guys who are at least somewhat reliable but won't cost very much money. In fact, I would say that the guys we're about to discuss in this video would be lucky to get 1 year, 2 million. I think all the guys that I'm going to talk about in this video with what they've recently made and what they've recently done, they would be fortunate to get a 1 year, $2 million deal. So these are guys who have very limited upside. They're never going to be studs for you, but most of them have produced a decent amount in this league, or at the very least, have some talent that maybe just hasn't been realized yet. So understand that we need players like this, right? We've got a really good top end with Lockett and Metcalf. We do need probably at least one more high quality receiver so we can go 3 receiver sets. We do need top end depth, but we also need back end depth. I don't know what this team sees in the future of a guy like a Cade Johnson right now, but it's possible we look at him and say, we need to do a little bit better than Cade Johnson. Maybe it's time we finally say, we got to do a little better than Penny Hart. So here are some guys that you could get for very close to the minimum who I think would be workable. So let's jump right in here with Jamison Crowder. Here's a guy who's actually had some pretty productive seasons in the NFL, but is in kind of a difficult spot at the moment as a player in this league because he just had his worst season. This is a guy who's had 700, 800, almost 900 yard seasons in his career for multiple teams. He's played for the Washington. He's played for New York. He's been productive in both areas. And then last year he signed a very cheap deal with the Buffalo Bills, just a few $1,000,000, and he didn't do anything. He didn't start a game. He only played in 4 games. And he's only going to be 30 this year. He's turning 30 in a little bit here. So age-wise, he should have something left. But the production was simply not there at all. He had 6 catches in 2022. PFF grade, I mean, not that this means anything because he played so little, was not very good. But you go back to previous years, he's had some efficient, effective seasons. So it seems to me that Jamison Crowder, physically and in terms of what we've seen him do relatively recently, should have something pretty good left. But because he just got a small deal from Buffalo and didn't do anything, he's probably going to get, again, I would say, if he's lucky, 1 year, $2 million. And given his history of production, I'd say he's probably worth that. Another guy who's kind of in a similar vein would be Zach Pascal. I've had my eye on this guy for a couple years now. I've always kind of liked him. He's kind of a perfect wide receiver 5, maybe wide receiver 6. A guy you like to have around, and hopefully he doesn't have to play that much, but if he does, you know that he can at least hack it. Zach Pascal had a pretty decent run with the Colts for 4 years. Peaked in 2019 and 2020. He actually, across those 2 seasons, had 85 catches, 1,200 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He was starting to turn into something, and he was a little bit of a letdown in 2021. Numbers were reduced. And then in 2022, he went to Philly and really didn't do that much. Averaged less than 1 catch per game and was basically a non-factor for the NFC champions. And I don't get the sense that this guy's washed up yet. He's going to be 29 this year. Age should not really be a big problem for him. It seems to me that he just got put on a team that had A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and an elite running game, and there weren't very many balls to go around. So Zach Pascal, I think, would be due for a decent bounce-back year if you put him in the right opportunity. His PFF grade for 2022, by the way, wasn't bad despite his lack of production. Now, he's actually had some not-so-great grades in the past, but also had some good ones. So, yeah, I think you could get him for very close to the veteran minimum right now. I would jump all over that. Next name would be DeAndre Carter. This is a guy who might be in line for a little more money than I'm thinking. He's kind of in a similar position to a guy like a Noah Brown. But I don't think he's going to do quite as well as a Noah Brown in free agency. But he's in a very similar spot where DeAndre Carter, like Noah Brown, was able to take advantage of a situation he was in where, excuse me, the receivers in front of him kept getting hurt, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So he got to play quite a bit in 2022, had 46 catches, over 500 yards, most productive season of his career by far. You could also compare him to a guy like a Mac Hollins. So a little bit of a breakout year for him, but common sense will tell you that this is a career journeyman who isn't really much to write home about at all, and he just benefited from the situation he was in. But you have to say, he took advantage of it, and he should probably he belongs in this league, right? He belongs in the NFL going forward for sure, I think. So PFF was kind of lukewarm on his season, but not bad, right? And again, think about what we're looking for here. We're not looking for superstars. We're looking for guys who prove that they belong in the NFL. And DeAndre Carter, with what he did in 2022, showed he belonged in the NFL. Spotrac even has a market value page for him, 1 year, 2. So 1 year, $2 million for a guy who's proving he can be decently productive in this league. Yeah, that's probably something I wouldn't mind jumping on. Certainly wouldn't be anything wrong with it, right? I think you could probably get somebody of a similar ability for the veteran minimum, but we're splitting hairs here, right? Like, it's not that big of a difference between 1 year, $2 million and 1 year, $1.5 million. I'm not going to freak out about that. Next name, and this guy's a little bit different than all the other names in this video, but I want to talk about him anyway. It's N'Keal Harry. The guys that I've talked about in this video, for the most part, have a history, or at least some evidence that they can be productive in this league. N'Keal Harry kind of doesn't. He's a big guy. He went in the first round. He's got that draft pedigree, but he has to date failed to top the season he had in 2020, where he had less than 310 receiving yards, 5 career touchdowns, and he's coming off a season where he had all of 7 catches for the Chicago Bears. So, yeah, this guy has not proven he can produce, even on the level of a Zach Pascal or a Jamison Crowder. He can't even have that 500 or 600 yard season as sort of a proof of life. So this is a little bit different. N'Keal Harry is a great blocker. You are getting that if you pick him up. And there is talent there. That's why he, was a first round pick. But unlike the previous guys, you're picking him up mostly because of what you hope you can squeeze out of him, not based off what you've seen of him. PFF actually not too down on him overall. I think if you go back through his grades, you can find pretty decent scores, but the volume just, it's not there. The volume is just simply not there. It's kind of a interesting story here with this guy where he's a really good blocker, but he's just so dreadful as a receiver. I can't imagine he gets any real money. He's probably a veteran minimum guy. N'Keal Harry's probably a veteran minimum guy, and I think you could get him for the veteran minimum, and at the very least, you're getting like a rich man's J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I guess. I don't know. But intriguing option for the veteran minimum. And final guy I want to take a look at here is Keelan Cole. This is kind of a reversion back to the kind of players I was talking about before. Keelan Cole is a guy who's been productive in this league, but is coming off his worst season ever. He was good for Jacksonville for 4 years, reasonably productive, although his best season was probably his rookie year. And then 2021, he was pretty good for the Jets. And then he went to the Raiders in 2022, and nothing good happened. He had 10 catches, played 14 games, so he had some opportunities, and just nothing was really working out for him. But the track record of him being a productive player, combined with the fact that he's only 30, is, to me, indicative of some ability still there. PFF obviously didn't care for his 2022. Nobody did. He was inefficient too. But you go back a couple years, you can find some decent grades here. So PFF certainly is not against him. His 2019 season, that's actually a pretty good grade for a receiver. And he's in a position right now where he took a very small contract to play for the Raiders for a year, didn't do anything. So he will be lucky to get 1 year, $2 million. And I think far more likely is he gets the veteran minimum 1 year prove it deal, or at this point it's more like a 1 year be lucky, consider yourself lucky that you're allowed to stay in the NFL, and that's it. So I think that what he did the first 5 years of his career is probably more indicative of what he can be as a player than what he did in 2022. So you can kind of buy low on him. That's basically the story for a lot of the guys in this video, but this guy I think is especially the case. Like you can see, his rookie year, he had 750 yards. And he continued to be reasonably productive with lackluster quarterback play across pretty much all these years. So, yeah, Keelan Cole would be my last guy I would consider to round out the bench. And there are probably 100 guys that would be adequate in that role out there, but these are the guys who stood out to me as being reliable, guys I feel okay counting on. And at the end of the day, if they're rounding out your bench and people start getting hurt and going down, you can feel like you at least have some competency out there. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you guys think I missed anybody. Let me know if anybody else stands out to you. That will finish my look at the receivers that are going to be available in free agency. I don't know if our wide receiver solution is going to need to be found in free agency, but if it is, there are some pretty decent options out there. All right, see you guys later. We're moving on to a new position tomorrow. Go Hawks. Hope to see you on stream tonight.